Thank you both for joining us, Joachim Nagel of the Bundesbank and François Villeroy de Galhau from the Banque de France. Now, a lot of people here may be expecting a bit of talk on the economy, which maybe we'll get at the margins, but there's something called, well, I call it the blackout period, which makes you sound very MI5. Governor de Galhau, I mean, it's basically a silent period, which means that no ECB member can talk about anything to do with monetary policy 7 days before an ECB decision.
Yes, this is a rule of the game. We will have a governing council together next week, Wednesday and Thursday. And the rule of the game is that since yesterday, start of the day, we are allowed to speak about many things, fortunately, but not any single word about monetary policy. Yeah,
so if we talk about the economy longer term, please don't infer anything into what the decision is next week. So we'll talk a little bit about digital assets. So let me just put the framing. The US is supporting the emergence of a decentralized, privately managed digital money, such as stablecoins, in parallel with traditional currencies. The ECB and the People's Bank of China are developing digital versions of the euro and the yuan to compete with new rivals and maintain control over the flow of money. So we'll discuss a little bit about this relatively new and untested, the future is difficult to predict for some of these assets. So I could not be more delighted to speak to Joachim Nagel and François Villeroy de Galhau. So first of all, Governor de Galhau, when you look at the use of less cash, and because the US seems to be shifting into the support of cryptocurrencies, how much pressure overall does that bring to monetary authorities to try and find a new way to have sway and influence?
I can perhaps start our common answer, and you will see, by the way, I must confess that Joachim and myself are close friends. We didn't know each other 4 years ago.
There will be no controversial.
That's disappointing. That's always disappointing.
Das kann ich vielleicht sogar auf Deutsch. Wir sind sehr befreundet. It doesn't mean that we always agree on monetary policy, but we will not speak on monetary policy. No, on this question of digital currency, perhaps I only introduce that this is linked to a very promising technological innovation, which is tokenization, linked to blockchain, and it's the idea that with this technique of tokenization, you can exchange not only money, but information, securities if they are tokenized, real estate if it's tokenized, etc. So it's a huge progress. And remember all this debate about payment versus delivery for all the specialists here, it's a huge progress. Now comes the question, is it only on private money, and this is a question of stable coins, which you mentioned, or do we still need a public anchor of what we call central bank digital currency? Mr. Trump introduced a prohibition in January on the US side. We believe on the European side that we need this answer, and we are pioneers in developing what we call a digital euro for retail and wholesale CBDC. And then I pass the baton to Joachim to elaborate, if you agree.
I think this was one of the hot topics when we had our meetings in Washington, D.C. during the IMF meeting. I think, first of all, it is sure this is a financial innovation, but when you are a central banker and you have to think about where are the good parts that you see in all what's going on in that segment and what could be maybe the bad part, you have to find maybe a smooth way. And this is a challenge that we see on the central banking side, on the regulation side, that first of all, this is our responsibility. Besides monetary policy, it is financial stability, and this is what we discussed also. This aspect was discussed in our meetings in Washington.
But to you both, are we underestimating the shift from the US? So is this Europe saying, look, the US is doing this with stable coins?
I would not say that we underestimated what went on in the United States over the last 10 months, but this was a change, and so we have to manage this change from the European side, and so it comes with challenges, this is for sure. But I believe that at the end, this is still my hope, that there has to be a joint understanding how we could manage this and coordinate and find smart regulation, not stopping innovation, but trying to do everything to give some cushion to the system, that the system is maybe not overstretched by this innovation, and to, in a certain way, circumvent it. This is what François alluded to. At the end, we have the understanding it should be backed in a way by central bank money. So we are the safeguards of the system. And we know from history that many innovations we saw in the past were tested by the market, and we have clear the view that we should prevent a situation where we are ending up in a, let me say, in a kind of a financial turmoil. Yeah.
But Governor Villeroy de Galhau, when you look at central bank digital currencies, are they really a line of defense against cryptocurrencies that essentially threaten somehow the central bank control over the flow of money?
First, we usually don't speak of cryptocurrencies. We speak of crypto assets, and you will understand the nuance. And there are
this is an important nuance.
Yeah, yes. And there are two very different things with cryptos. There are unbacked cryptos like Bitcoin or others. These are very speculative instruments. What we are speaking about is stable coins. These are backed assets, at least theoretically backed, and linked with a fixed parity with an existing sovereign currency, be it the dollar or the euro or possibly others. This technique is probably more promising, but it raises also many financial stability questions, as Joachim mentioned. So there is a question of regulation on both sides of the Atlantic. You are probably aware that Europe was pioneer here. Everybody is smiling about the idea that Europe is pioneer in regulation, but there are good regulation. And this one is a good one called MiCA, adopted last year. And this is a positive step. On the US side, they adopted 1 year later a regulation called GENIUS. It's a bit immodest in the acronym.
The GENIUS Act.
And we think that MiCA is still better than GENIUS, but I will not enter the technicalities. There are some ambiguities in GENIUS, but it's a positive step to guarantee that this private money or these private stable coins are secure. What I would say that you need regulation, but you need this public anchor, CBDC. My personal guess is that we will see how much it develops, this tokenized money, but we don't pretend that it will be only public. We will probably need some private tokenized money. It could be stable coins in euros. It could be what, I don't know if there are bankers in the room or specialists, what is called tokenized deposits, but it's the same technique. And so you would have a kind of triangle: public tokenized money, CBDC, private tokenized money, and regulation. I think this is a good triangle. Our view is that probably in the US, this question of CBDC will come one day. Perhaps last element, at present, this market is predominantly in dollars because the use cases are concentrated on a very specific case for stablecoins, which is the exchanges with cryptos, precisely unbacked cryptos. And this market is in dollar. But if you think tomorrow of other use cases, think of financial transactions on European market infrastructure, it will very probably be in euros. And this is why we develop not only central bank digital currency for retail, what we call the digital euro, which is probably known from all of you, but also less known, a wholesale CBDC, which is at least as important. And we will go quicker on this other element.
And maybe just to complement what François said regarding stablecoins, I think you have the feeling that when you listen to market participants, it is a little bit this gold rush feeling. Everyone wants to get in this new asset class. Maybe at the moment, I would say it's not very significant, but all what I hear is that over the next couple of years, it will become much more significant. So we have to look at it, and it's perfectly right what François said. 97% of the stablecoins so far issued is dollarized. Right. So it is in US dollar. So on the European side, we have to, again, ask ourselves how we can compete here. And I believe one answer could be to see more stablecoins in the future issued in euros and not in US dollars. I think it has to be our interest that the dollar is not getting too prominent when it comes to stablecoins.
But do you see the digital euro as Europe's answer to stablecoins, or is that too late?
I think it's never too late. It's never too late. I think we need the digital euro. I think maybe you heard it several times, maybe during that conference, it's about resilience. I think this is our digital twin related to banknotes, to cash. So we need a digital answer for an environment, for all what's going on around us that is becoming more and more digital. So I guess we need this, and François said it perfectly right again. I think it's about a wholesale variant and a retail variant. As far as we know it, François, the wholesale solution will come soon, pretty soon. The retail takes a little bit longer, but it's not too late, definitely not.
Can I add one thing on this question of dollarization? It could be a question for us Europeans, but as we said together, our answer is quite clear: stable coins in euro, and yes, CBDC in euro. What I take from our discussion in Washington is that this question is much stronger for emerging countries, because we are lucky enough to have together the euro. It's a fantastic French, German, and European success. We have built together a global currency. But if you are, I will not quote any names, but important emerging countries, the idea that they could be overwhelmed by stable coins in dollars for all cross-border transactions and perhaps some domestic uses is really an issue of monetary sovereignty. So we have our answer, we must accelerate on it, but it's still a bigger challenge for many emerging countries.
And it's about digital sovereignty. I guess we have to acknowledge that most of the data is sitting abroad, is domiciled in the United States, so we need some independence here. So I believe it is of utmost importance that we have to proceed, and at the end we have to have such a digital currency.
To you both, is pushing euro-denominated stablecoins the second best option in case digital euro takes longer or Parliament decides that it's not a good idea?
No, I think it will go in parallel. I don't see a substitution or a competition. If you allow me, Francine, 30 seconds of monetary philosophy.
Absolutely.
For centuries, under the control of Joachim, for centuries, money has been a public-private partnership with a central bank currency. It used to be banknotes, it will be the digital euro or the CBDC, and private money. And we have no objective of market share, but this public anchor is very important to give equal confidence, equal value, equal credibility to the private money.
And on top of that, François, I think the lessons learned over the past 15 years is that we went through many, many crises. And so there is this necessity to have the lender of last resort. And we shouldn't forget this, what happened since 2008 after the Lehman collapse and over the following years. So we need strong, independent central banks to do this.
I mean, some in the room, you know, economists or bankers will say that actually the payment system should really be in the regulated private sector business. So why haven't central banks used their considerable influence to make that happen?
Why not? No, private banks are very welcome. Okay, again, I think we should work together on this tokenization of the euro monetary system. But you said a regulated private system, and regulation is on the public side. And sometimes this is what happened with Target 2 services, for example, or TIPS. When I speak of public-private partnerships, the ECB initiative and the public initiative helped to build this coalition. So it's not to see that it's a competition between public and private within Europe would be, for me, a complete mistake. Let us be honest. If there is a competition, it's more across the Atlantic and between the dollar and other currency. But we have a common European interest. We have built our monetary sovereignty with the euro around 30 years ago. We must preserve it through tokenization.
Absolutely, and there's a misunderstanding. Often there's that understanding that when you have a private initiative that is being crowded out by maybe an initiative coming from the central bank side. This is not true. I think often it is the truth that you can link both initiatives to a more stronger service level, and so I believe the same with the digital euro and maybe private initiatives. They are already ongoing.
What would concretely a retail CBDC look like? So it'd have to be limited in the amount. How much?
It's not yet decided, if I'm right. Joachim, you could say your proposal and your wish.
I think, first of all, this is an important question. It's still being discussed. There will be a certain threshold, a certain limitation. At the end, with that limitation, we are trying to do everything to safeguard the business model of the private bank. So there shouldn't be any worry that we are not aware of this fact and we will find the right level. I'm really convinced.
Philosophically, how do you think about the right level? Because you also have to make it worthwhile for people, including people in this room, to open a bank account. It shouldn't
be too high, but it shouldn't be too low as well. So we have to.
This is very wise. Can I elaborate on that? If you agree, it should be used for payments and transaction in retail. And probably you were asking, how does it look like? I would say, think of your banknotes. It would be a digital banknote plus digital because you would add all the advantage of digital, and plus because it would allow some functions which you cannot do with banknotes, pay online, etc. But maybe mainly for transaction, and not mainly, if you agree, for a store of value.
Absolutely.
So this means that the limit shouldn't be too high, because for payments you don't need, I don't know, 10,000 euro daily.
Yeah, and you don't want, of course, a great drainage, right, in case of something.
Exactly.
But I guess you also, I mean, I don't know if is it a new bank account that people have to open?
No, you can do it with your bank account you have with your bank. I think there's no doubt about it. You don't have to change too much. I think maybe the app that you have on your mobile looks maybe the same, maybe with the logo from your local bank that you use. So I think it will be a smart solution. And I believe at the end, everybody will be convinced that the digital euro is doing what a currency has to do.
Why are not more central banks going down this road? I know you
maybe just to give you, before you're asking, just to give you my little short story, my anecdotal evidence. It was a couple of years ago when we started the discussion around the digital euro. I was on a flight back to Frankfurt. And you notice when you come to the cruising altitude, then you hear the announcement, now we are starting our board service. You cannot pay with cash, but you can pay with, I have to say it now, with Visa, Master, Apple, PayPal, whatever. And then I realized, wow, we are flying back to Frankfurt, to Europe. I would like to hear that in the future, that they're saying, well, now you can pay also with the digital euro. I'm saying this, I'm telling this story about a simple fact that we in Europe, we are a strong economy. We are 450 million people. We have our own currency now for 27 years. So it's, for me, it's a way, let me say, this is something we have to do. We have to get into that digital sphere. We have to do it, and I believe this is a public good. A digital currency is a public good. It shouldn't be, in a way, you can do it with a private initiative, but there should be also something that could be used by everyone.
Why are not more central banks going down this road? I think the BOE and the Swedish Central Bank studied it and said, actually, not for now. The Fed has is not interested in the idea for now.
Here, Francine, I would speak about the less visible part of central bank digital currency, which is wholesale, because many central banks are looking at it. And as we said, it's probably, if you look at time, the emergency number one. Because this tokenized money, stable coins, will be probably first for large corporates, market infrastructure, financial transaction. And here the answer is not the digital euro for retail, it's the wholesale CBDC. Here, I don't know if you are aware that we took decisive steps, and by the way, we took them together because Bundesbank and Banque de France with Banca d'Italia and with ECB are very active on that. We will provide next year, so-called Pontes, a first step of a tokenized central bank currency. And our aim is to build with another project called Appia, something which would be really pioneer, what we call a unified ledger, sorry for the word, but a tokenized platform where you can exchange central bank digital currency, tokenized assets, and these tokenized deposits or stable coins in euro. And I think this is very promising. And here we don't need a new legal authorization. There is a debate, a legal debate in the European Council and European Parliament about the digital euro. We strongly hope it will come to a positive end. It's very positive on the Council. There are still more debate on the European Parliament. But it's obvious for our sovereignty. It's obvious.
And we shouldn't forget, this is our core business. So payment infrastructure, this is the core business of central banks. So we are used to it, we have the expertise, and at the end we can do it.
Governors, so I don't want to cross into the monetary policy world, but I only have a couple of minutes left and we're going to take questions from the floor, and it does seem like the world could see more shocks because of what we saw last week with credit. Like, what does that mean for central banks? Do you think we're going towards a period where we should worry more about credit, where we should worry more about shocks, full stop?
Well, I think you're perfectly right. I think the world became more complicated. I think more uncertainties, and and this is also changing the way we have to conduct monetary policy. We have to take that even more into account, and it's changing on a daily basis. Often we have the feeling it's very erratic. The only thing I can say about monetary policy is the following. I think we did a lot over the past 3.5 years, and I guess we also. Okay, I will not say that. This is part of the quiet period, but I would say the following, that it will change the way we have to think about certain developments. This is also for sure. We have to think about more in scenarios. Often we have our baseline scenarios, but now we have to take also different scenarios into account, and these scenarios are definitely influenced by all these uncertainties. And so the way we are doing things, I'm not sure, François, but I believe it's getting more and more complicated. Yeah?
No, I do agree. One of the answers we can bring is to build a stronger Europe, and especially a stronger financial Europe. If we have to call a famous project the Saving and Investment Union.
You said it now, yeah.
No, but this is not monetary policy. With a deeper integration of euro-denominated financial market, with a stronger attractiveness of the euro as an international currency, then we are less dependent on global shocks. We are not immune, but we are less dependent. So we strongly push together. We made a call together last year, by the way. It was in November.
In Frankfurt.
Sorry, not in Berlin. About a French-German wake-up and a European wake-up. Can I say, Joachim, at that time we felt a bit lonely. We are less lonely today, obviously, because what happens worldwide shows that we need a stronger Europe. But we must accelerate. We should have a calendar for the central bank digital currency, but not only for the Saving and Investment Union. All we do, mobilizing European resources, increase economic and financial stability at home. That said, we still need regulation, and this is our debate with our US partners. It's obvious. We favor together simplification of some financial rules, but we don't advocate deregulation. This would be a very dangerous game. ceding probably the risk of the next financial crisis.
If Europe retaliates against China, I mean, how problematic is this for the economy longer term?
I think this retaliation question, I think at the end it has to be decided by politics where we are going here. Is retaliation the right strategy? At the end, it would be better to find a kind of an agreement, a kind of a joint understanding how to manage the whole situation. But if this is the ultimate ratio, the ultima ratio, I would say, okay, we have to be strong and have to take a bold decision. This is also for sure, because I alluded to this already. Europe is a strong economy. We have 450 million people. We have strong companies, strong SMEs. So we can play the cards in a way that we shouldn't be too shy, too reluctant when it comes to bold decisions when they are necessary. But I hope there's still some room to maneuver and find maybe a kind of a cooperative spirit, how to deal with the situation with China. There's still time to solve it. We will see.
Can I add, in the same vein, that we collectively, as Europeans, should have at least one American virtue, which is more self-confidence in our own resources and more ambition to mobilize them. It's time for a European mobilization. This is our strong conviction. And sorry to say that there are some progress, but it doesn't go quickly enough and strong enough.
And even after 27 years of that success story of our joint currency, and this is the reason why I made that joke with François, because he said the savings and investment union. We both trying to promote, push the capital market union now for years and years and years. It's now time to do it. It's overdue, and time is our ultimate constraint here. And there's even more on top we can do. It's not just the savings and investment union. The banking union as well is part of this. So we have now to do what is necessary to make Europe even stronger, more resilient, more competitive. We have to look into the Draghi report. After 1 year, it's now being published. Some elements are already been implemented, but there's a lot of more we can do to make Europe much stronger.
Can I mention one good news of the week?
Absolutely.
30 seconds. The European Commission decided this week to put on the table a proposal for the 28th regime for startups cross-border. There are still debates. Is it a directive, a regulation? Is it only for startups? But we have it at the end. And now we should implement it as quickly as possible.
Absolutely, yeah.
Final question from me, because I know there's a lot of impatient people trying to ask questions, but actually the chief of the Berlin Global Dialogue yesterday was intimating in a Bloomberg interview that maybe it's time for a German to be in charge of the ECB when Madame Lagarde steps down. What does my panel think about this?
This is your final question?
Yeah. It's a good
okay,
question,
François.
right?
I leave this question to you.
I don't know, Lars Henrik, you spoke of a German woman, or what was precisely your verdict? No, what I would say on my side, and Joachim will compliment, it's not in our hands. No, I am serious about that. First, it's premature, because Christine Lagarde's term has still more than 2 years, and she's an excellent chair, obviously. But it's not in our hands. And I think it's important, because there is all this debate about independence. Joachim stressed it. I think it's a core value, inherited from the German Bundesbank, by the way. And we see, unfortunately, in the US, what treasure it is to protect monetary policy and have a low inflation and low interest rates. We are independent, but we are appointed by political authorities because we live in democracies. And very often people say, how can you be independent as you are appointed by political authorities? For me, for you, for the ECB president, the answer is obvious. We have this political legitimacy thanks to this democratic appointment, but from the first day, We are focused on our core mandate, but we are not responsible for our own appointments.
Yeah, well, now I had time to think about this question, but first of all,
It was my aim.
Yeah. So what
Because it was perhaps more a question for Joachim than for myself.
No. I think we shouldn't spend too much time on this. But first of all, I would like to say the following. I'm now 3 years and 10 months in the Governing Council. It was an excellent experience here. After it is under the leadership of Christine Lagarde. She's doing an excellent job. And we have such a joint spirit. We are all Europeans. And François, as always, is perfectly right. At the end, politics has to decide, and this is good.
Thank you, Governors. It's time for questions from the floor. So again, yes, actually, let's start here on the right, if I have a microphone, and then here. Just remember, we're in quiet period, silent period, so no monetary policy question.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, my name is Sophie. Mr. Nagel, you said that digital currencies are a public good. And my question would be, in a time when public trust in financial institutions is already fragile, what concrete steps are you or would you take to make sure that the digital euro is perceived as a public good and not as a new instrument for control? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sophie, for that excellent question. I think what we will guarantee at the end is the privacy of the user. What's going on with your data when you use the digital currency? And I think this is one of the elements where I believe we deviate to a certain extent from private solution. And at the end, it will be easy to access to the digital euro, so it can be used in an offline mode and an online mode. So also this inclusiveness that you maybe will not find maybe in private solutions, I think this is guaranteed when the digital euro will come.
Can I add one thing on public confidence? Because you are right, we live in a period of growing distrust. But the euro is one of the remarkable exceptions. The support for the euro from European citizens is at a record high, 83%. After 3 years of inflation, after high interest rate, despite this distrust, despite the rise of what is called populism, I don't like this word, but it tells something, that European projects can be popular, despite all this distrust, if they are tangible enough, if they are well explained, and if they are implemented consistently through time. And there could be other projects on defense, on energy, on artificial intelligence. I think it's a very positive example.
I have 3 more questions. So here, the gentleman in the middle row. Yeah, and then I have one here in the front row afterwards.
Hi, I'm Tom Nuttall from The Economist. I wanted to ask the 2 of you about this proposal to issue Ukraine a loan based against the Russian assets frozen at Euroclear. We thought that we would get a decision to move this forward yesterday at the European Council. It bumped up against a big Belgian hurdle. There have been some concerns about the implications of this plan for financial stability. So I wanted to ask you, A, do you think this is a good idea? B, do you think the hurdles we encountered last night can be overcome quickly enough to get the money to Ukraine when it needs it? Thank you.
Joachim, you will decide if this question belongs to monetary policy.
I think maybe in the best diplomatic way, answering your question, we were not part of this discussion, so I do not have the details, what was discussed and where are the obstacles. But at the end, I believe the most important takeaway, and I guess this is our joint understanding, that there will be financial support for Ukraine. And what I heard, just taking the information I have from what I read in the press, is that they will find a solution for that. There's work they have to do, and it was not maybe a showstopper that they found. That was maybe my takeaway from all what I heard from this Brussels discussions.
Okay, so we have a question here, and then we'll finish with also the lady in the front row. Yep.
Thank you, Sven Janssen. A question, or I'd be interested to hear your opinion, and the answer may give a bit of a momentum to the Franco-German relationships. Are you willing to support the merger of one European stock exchange, a topic which has resurfaced again this week, and it's something that I personally looked at some 25 years ago. So, and by making a clear statement on that, yes or no, I think you have a lot of power, even if it's not a monetary policy question directly. Thank you.
I am ready to start. I'm not sure we have that much of a power in this field. Because first, it's about private infrastructure, and second, we are not the market authorities. That said, it could be part of an agenda for the savings union. But it's not the only item. Let me stress, to take only items which are very relevant for the equity field. Because Europe doesn't lack savings, it lacks equity and venture capital. Unified supervision, Christine Lagarde proposed a European SEC. 28th regime, as I said, development of pension funds, development of some retail products. So this private part of the agenda could be part of it, but we should not focus only on this proposal.
What I can say is the following, and I said it 2 or 3 days ago. It's an interesting idea, for sure. And I'm always saying we need more Europe and not less Europe. And in that regard, again, it's an interesting idea.
Brave enough to say yes.
I said interesting idea.
Okay, yes.
Thanks very much, Caroline Atkinson. Yeah. Thank you. Great panel. Thank you very much. I want to go back to stable coins. We were in a meeting yesterday trying to puzzle out what is the use case. And I understand the use case for the providers if they're private, because they make a spread. But what is the use case for consumers, including retail? Right now, to your anecdote about being on the plane, I live in the US, I'm American, though I don't sound it, but I have a British bank account as well, and I can just use either one of those, pay in pounds, maybe I should get a euro one, pounds or dollars, through the existing payment system. So what is it that is going to be so special? And will you regulate it so that the lender of last resort doesn't end up bailing out the private money?
My answer would be that we don't know yet. And let me tell the kind of discussions we had in Washington. I had in Washington last week, including on the US side, not in the multilateral discussion. I asked exactly the same question. And I got very different answers. I don't know if you're aware that the forecast for the volume, the outstandings of stablecoin in dollars in 28, in 3 years, it's a very wide bracket from, today it's about 300 billion, and the bracket in 3 years is between 500 billion and 3 trillion, which is huge. The use cases we have at present are twofold. Exchanges with cryptos, as I said, and cross-border payments, and mainly the first one, which explains why it's 99% in dollars. I personally think there could be many other use cases in the future. Cross-border could develop very much, and you know how slow they are at present, how expensive they are. Think of corporate cross-border systems, and think still more of retail for remittances. I also think of financial transactions and large corporates. I spoke of this unified ledger with tokenized securities. This would be an obvious use. And if you have it for cross-border and then for financial transaction, peu à peu, allmählich, you would have probably spillover effects to Mittelstand and to SMEs and perhaps to retail. Think of real estate, for example. If you want to buy and get the property rights, tokenization can be a good solution. But it's not in our hands. It will be free choice by first probably large corporates, then Mittelstand, then retail. But I don't know where the border is. I'm sure we have to prepare for that.
I think perfectly explained by François. I think one point many are saying that taking, for example, the cross-border payment part is coming at lower costs. So there is maybe some incentive from that angle, that this is at the moment what I see one of the advantages that so many are mentioning, that it's at the end less costly, and that makes it maybe for some users preferable.
Can I give a very practical example,
yes,
parallel to the anecdote of Joachim in the plane? I used to be in the US Fed last Friday, and I discussed with Chris Waller, who is the governor in charge of payments, and we were discussing this question. And he gave me the striking example of a small American startup, I will not quote the name, specialized in cross-border payments. And one very positive use case was an Indian factory buying some Mexican elements from a Mexican supplier. I don't know in which field, probably automotive. And at present, if you are an Indian company paying a Mexican Mittelstand company, it's very expensive. Correspondent banking exists, but it's complicated because it's two currencies which are not major currencies, etc.
And expensive.
Yes, and very expensive. Probably several percent of the cost of the transaction. More than 1%. These startups propose to intermediate through stable coins in dollar. So the Indian company buys stable coins in dollar, transfers very simply to the Mexican supplier, and the Mexican supplier exchanges in pesos. The cost of the transaction, according to Chris Waller, is 2 basis points, 0.02%. This is a clear use case.
Governors, thank you so much for joining us. François Villeroy de Galhau and Joachim Nagel. Thank you.
Thank you very much.